Hello, how you guys doing? James here. Get my studio, a little studio phone. Um, I want to make a comment about the job report out here these days. It's really looking pretty bad. And despite these guys covered how Trump said that there were a lot of jobs, and according to the report, and this is crazy. Watch this. And I'm going to show you what happening to companies now.
We're going to get the revisions for last year next week, and there may be as big as an 800,000 job downward revision again. This would be the second downward revision, so I'm not sure what these people who collect the data have been doing.
1.7 million jobs have been found out to be fake. The BLS is a propaganda machine designed to create an illusion of a strong labor market. Now, when we add Tuesday's negative job revisions of 911,000 to the negative revisions last year of 818,000, that's over 1.7 million fake news jobs. With just the latest revisions, we went from roughly 147,000 jobs a month all the way down to 70,000 a month, which is less than half. Now, how do you make that type of error if not for intent and negligence? Now, we're going to go into that, and we're also going to take a look at the market's reaction to all of this data. And we're going to talk about what happens to the stock market once they start rates again, which is probably going to happen in about 1 week. Now, having said that, you guys, happy Wednesday, good morning, and welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. You guys already know that this video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Mitch Vexler, good morning, sir, and how are you?
Good. The manipulation of the data.
It's pretty crazy how clean and how bright everything is here at Uline. You really don't see that.
Good. The manipulation of the data is something that we have been jumping up and down about for almost 8 months. And when you go to the websites, Travis's, mine, or Jeff's, you begin to see how this math that has been promoted doesn't stack. And as it turns out, even at the federal level, what you think would be legitimate and honorable turns out not to be legitimate or honorable. And it causes huge gyrations in the truth. And if you don't deal with the truth, you cannot get to the solutions of any of these problems. And promoting the fraud ends up in promoting inflation, both the federal level and the state level. And that is what we as mom and pop are dealing with.
And to your credit, Mitch, as the viewers know, on yesterday morning's video, I guessed that the revisions would be over a million. I cornered Mitch and he said under a million. So Mitch Vexler was right because we missed it, barely missed it. I was barely wrong. But what did happen is this data revision ended up being the largest data revision in history. September 9th, 2025, the current employment statistic preliminary benchmark is out. The preliminary estimate of the current employment statistics, or the CES, is a national benchmark revision to the total non-farm employment for March 2025, which is a downward revision of 911,000 jobs. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today the annual benchmark revisions over the last 10 years have an absolute average of only 0.2% of total non-farm employment. So we've exceeded that average greatly with negative 0.6%. There's a final revision to this revision. That final benchmark revision will be released in February, all the way to February of 2026, with January 2026 employment situation news release. Now, when we break down where the revisions occurred, it's a little bit alarming, especially when we look at information. Now, it doesn't seem like 67,000 is a lot, but I'm looking at the percentage. They were off by negative 2.3%. That is a massive discrepancy in data. Someone's not doing their job right, clearly. But the industries with triple-digit reductions is, number one, wholesale trade with 110,000 jobs. Number two is retail trade with 126 jobs disappeared. Number three is professional and business services with 158,000 downward revisions to jobs. Number four is leisure and hospitality, and that one makes a lot more sense because when they said they added leisure and hospitality, I was like, how is that possible heading into recession? But they've removed 176,000 This is showing, according to the household survey, a gain of 1.9 million jobs. So that's why, as I told you guys yesterday, I said that we're probably going to have a revision of over 1 million jobs, because this data does not match this data and this data. You got to pick either good economy or bad economy, but what they're doing here is total propaganda. It's simply designed to continue to keep us spending. They want us to keep our guard down so that we think everything is perfectly fine in our lives and in the economy, so that we, you and I, continue to prop up these prices. Don't forget, you guys, yes, Federal Reserve is horrible, Central Appraisal District is horrible, but it's you and I that are really propping things up, because we are responsible for 70% of our GDP. So mom and pop are very important. Now, Mitch Wexler, my question to you is what does the largest data revision in history tell us about the United States economy?
What we have here is a story of the flaw of averages. And Travis just mentioned the idea of hospitality dropping 176,000 jobs. The problem is when the statements are made that are statements made on the gross calculation. Well, that creates a flaw of averages. So you say, well, the hospitality industry. Well, the problem is inside the hospitality industry, you have 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. And if you look at the 5-star hotel world, it's actually doing well. The upper end, luxury, is doing well. The 4-star is hemorrhaging. And there's multiple reasons for that, including age of the facilities, and that it takes a certain amount of labor to operate a 4-star as compared to the 3-star. The 3-stars are doing okay. So one has to then ask, where is the dominant factor of those people getting laid off coming from, in order to paint the correct picture, which is tell the truth. Problem with the numbers as presented, you can't get to the truth. They're lumping everything in. So it stands to reason that if the 5-star is doing well, the 3-star is okay, well, obviously everything in the 4-star world, give or take, is hemorrhaging. And that's where the focus has to be, because a lot of those hotels end up with commercial mortgage-backed securities, CMBS. That starts problems on the real estate side. Well, this discussion that we're having also goes to certain elements of retail. So as the economy gets weaker, which retailers do better and which retailers do worse? The problem with the idea of, well, a certain amount of retail labor has been laid off doesn't paint the picture. It doesn't tell the truth. It's the flaw of averages. Lumping everything into a larger category is a flaw of averages. Yeah.
Exactly. And guess what's going on right now to back up what they're saying?
Here's something no hedge fund would ever offer: a 90-day money-back guarantee where you
basically being forced to develop the AI technology that we all know the goal is for that technology to replace us, so that these companies can do more layoffs and line their own pockets.
We're seeing massive Google layoffs right now. Like Google firing managers by 30%. This is one of the biggest layoffs happening in Google.
I was like, no, and it's, yes. I didn't push it because I'm like, I'm trying to get this job. But I'm so tempted to just send him the Wikipedia now because the elephant is diagonal and can jump. He was referring to like, I know it's called in English, but in Arabic the translation is castle and like the one that moves down or across. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was like a matrix question and then it doesn't matter what the name of the piece is. I just was like, no.
When that light comes on,
Wow, that's crazy. But it's not only tech is doing bad.
Manufacturers. In 2023 alone, Canada exported over 99,618 tons of unprocessed nickel worth $3.2 billion,
Hold on,
with nearly
I'm sorry.
investors and analysts started sounding the alarm. On April 7th, 2025, Barron's issued a brief yet impactful recommendation: sell GM stocks, according to an analyst. It's all about tariffs. By May 1st, GM was forced to face the harsh reality and announce the bitter numbers. CBS News reported on this painful adjustment. General Motors is lowering its profit expectations for the year as the automaker prepares for the potential impact of car tariffs, which could total up to $5 billion by 2025. On Thursday, the automaker said it now expects full-year adjusted earnings before interest and taxes, EBIT, to range from $10 billion to $12.5 billion. This guidance includes the current tariff impact, which is estimated at between $4 billion and $5 billion. GM had previously forecast 2025 adjusted EBIT to be between $13.7 billion and $15.7 billion. That $5 billion isn't just a loss. It's equivalent to the cost of building 10 new factories or paying 100,000 workers for a year. Instead of being invested in the future, that money has been swallowed up by a short-sighted tariff policy. Instead of the promised protection from Trump, the U.S. economy is bleeding out. Investopedia took a deeper dive into these numbers, revealing a grim financial picture. General Motors, GM, sharply revised its forecast on Thursday. As America's largest automaker warned that the new auto tariffs from the Trump administration will have an impact of $4 billion to $5 billion on full-year profits. However, the company said it had plans to offset part of the effects. GM now expects adjusted earnings per share, EPS, for 2025 to range from $8.25 to $10, down from the previous estimate of $11 to $12. The company also reduced its adjusted EBIT forecast to between...
We've been farming 48 years, and I'm first generation of this farm.
That's a lot of jobs, man. This Trump is really, boy, look at what he done. Check.
let's see what's in the news today. 475 Hyundai workers were handcuffed right in Georgia during a multi-billion-dollar electric vehicle battery project. After just one night, the entire production line suddenly fell silent. But that was just the beginning. A policy was once enacted with the promise that Made in America would save American jobs. But how do you save them when a series of industrial towns are now nothing more than ghost towns? Meanwhile, upon entering a car showroom, many people are startled by the exorbitant prices. The SUV that used to cost $28,000 is now nearly $34,000. Add 5 to 6,000 USD just because of tariffs and a broken supply chain. The dream of owning a car vanished right before my eyes.
tiny town in Georgia, known only for boating and golfing, suddenly became the focus of the entire United States. It wasn't because they won the lottery, but because of a massive immigration raid, like something out of a Hollywood movie, right at the Hyundai battery plant construction site. 475 workers were handcuffed by ICE in just a few hours. A construction worker at the electric vehicle manufacturing plant told CNN that federal agents descended on Hyundai's construction site as if it were a war zone. The employee said the agents asked each worker for their social security number, date of birth, and other identifying information. The workers were allowed to leave with a paper that was issued to show to the agent at the factory gate. The image of hundreds of people in long lines, hands locked, is a sight that is difficult to erase from memory. The two 900-acre construction site, once promised to create 8,500 golden jobs, suddenly went cold and silent, as if someone had pulled the plug. Who said only American movies have scenes where everything is cleared up in 24 hours, right? Hearing this, people say it's about protecting American jobs, but ask yourself, whose jobs are we protecting? When the entire production line is silent, what work is there to protect? The state government of Georgia once proudly hailed the Hyundai project as a magic wand that would transform the rural economy. And yet, with just one crackdown, the entire billion-dollar dream is at risk of being frozen. Notably, the majority of those arrested were not.
Professionals who apply AI to business earn 56% more globally. And Gen AI
Risk of being frozen. Notably, the majority of those arrested were not illegally hiding. They have visas and are legally in the United States, but they fell into the trap of small print, the type of visa that allows them to live here, but doesn't let them get involved in industrial work. That's how you see it in America. Immigration policy can not only cost you your job, but also be powerful enough to make an international corporation hesitate and leave. And then behind the photos of handcuffed workers lies a deeper paradox. America is both lamenting a labor shortage and tightening the only remaining pipeline of human resources with its own hands. The factories are crying out for workers, but Washington says not to worry, just close down a few more production lines, and it'll be fine. It's no longer policy. It's perhaps a multi-billion-dollar comedic paradox. It's like going to Walmart, seeing empty shelves, and the manager locking the door to a warehouse full of goods. That's absurd. For ordinary Americans, the impact of the crackdown wasn't in the Department of Homeland Security's report, but right on their dinner tables. When the factory shut down, workers lost their jobs, the diner was empty, and the owner had to refinance the mortgage. My friend in Macon told me in the past his BBQ restaurant had to set up extra tables at lunchtime, but now he's lucky to sell even a few portions of brisket during an entire shift. He said, if the government wants to keep the community quiet, they've certainly succeeded. The slogan, "Protect American Jobs," is hard to swallow now when we look around and see that the only things still safe are the bankruptcy law industry and debt collection services. And Georgia was just the opening shot. If a single raid can wipe out an entire EV battery project, just imagine how many other factories are sitting there, waiting for the plug to be pulled. If the Georgia raid was the first blow, the new 25% tariffs were the real hit to our wallets. According to the Q2 2025 financial report, Hyundai's profit fell by 16%, resulting in a loss of $606.37 million solely due to this tax. According to the press, this seems like a lesson for foreign corporations. But in real life, it's the average Americans who are really struggling to pay the bills. Let's step into a showroom. The SUV that used to be 28,000 USD is now 34,000 USD. A $6,000 jump equivalent to a middle-class family's entire year's worth of gas and electricity bills. The rich just shrug and swipe their card for a few thousand more. But for most American workers, it's the line between buying a new car and fixing the transmission for the third time on their 15-year-old sedan. People often say that cars are the soul of the American dream. They are both a means of transportation to work and a symbol of freedom. But that dream has now turned into a nightmare of interest rates and tariffs. A friend in Ohio told me he was planning to trade in his old Ford for his daughter to go to college. Now have to let her drive the 20-year-old car, praying the airbags don't retire before she graduates. That's the real price of America. First, our children go to school in old beat-up cars, while the showrooms are full of new, dusty vehicles. What the press rarely mentions is perhaps the disruption of the global supply chain. American factories rely on Asian components. When tariffs are imposed, costs increase exponentially. But instead of acknowledging that truth, the politician raised the slogan high. And ordinary Americans who were promised protection became the uninvited guests of the tariff game. For a generation that witnessed the collapse of Detroit, this scene is very familiar. At that time, people also talked about protecting American jobs. The result was that an entire city turned into a symbol of desolation. History seems to be repeating itself, except this time we have to buy tickets using our bank statements. The only industry that is likely protected at this time is the for-sale marine manufacturing industry in front of the house. Every time car prices increase by a few thousand, another American family knocks on the bank's door asking for a loan deferral or to sell off assets. So when they hear the slogan, America First, many people just smirk. Yeah, there's first all right. But first in turning a new car into a luxury item and turning the American dream into the most expensive joke in the world. But the story doesn't end there. Because when car prices rise, profits plummet, and showrooms are empty, it's not just consumers who feel the pinch, but the community around the factory is also preparing for a double blow. There's a truth to the fact that a Hyundai factory doesn't just support 5,000 workers. It supports the entire diner on the corner, the gas station, the parts store, and even the Friday night football field where the whole community gathers. When the production line stopped, not only did the sound of the machinery fall silent, but the laughter in the restaurants also died down. This is the cruel domino effect that the press often overlooks. People only see the 20% drop in Hyundai's profits on the financial statements. But for us, what's more memorable is that the diner owner no longer has to prepare 200 lunches every day. Now it's just 20. His cashier daughter also had to quit and then planned to leave the state to find work in Nashville. A factory stalled and the entire town in Alabama transformed into a miniature version of Detroit. What is the underlying cause here? Is it absolute dependence on a big player? When a corporation decides to come, the whole community rejoices as if welcoming a savior. When it receded, all that was left were for sale signs hanging limply in front of the porch. There is no option B. There is no long-term plan. Only the uncertainty that ordinary Americans are paying the price for. Remember, the 2008 crisis, one store closing, led to the collapse of the entire neighborhood. Now with Hyundai, that story is repeating itself in an industrial form. The most painful thing isn't just losing your job, but losing your faith. A town once brimming with pride. We made cars for the whole world, now has to watch its children pack up and leave, leaving empty homes and cold church pews. Many people joke that in America, you don't need zombies to create a ghost town. Just one corporation pulling out is enough. Dark windows, rusty signs, grassy parking lots, all have become a living museum for an abandoned industrial dream. And the even more pressing question, if Hyundai, a giant once welcomed as a benefactor, is considering pulling out, who will still believe in the promise of American industry? The answer isn't easy to swallow, but it will lead us to the next step. Why does Hyundai want to leave US Americans often proudly call this country the land of opportunity. But with Hyundai, the new name now sounds more fitting, land of uncertainty. Put yourself in the shoes of the Hyundai board of directors. On one side is the US 25% tariffs immigration policies that change like Florida weather high labor costs and regulations that can kill any project overnight. On the other side are Vietnam and India labor costs are half the workforce is young. The government is constantly opening policies to encourage production, and most importantly, no one brings ice to drag hundreds of workers out of the factory. It's hard to blame them for being so meticulous with every penny. An American-made SUV adds a few $1,000s due to taxes and costs. But if the production production line is placed in Vietnam, that price could be cut enough to retain customers. For global corporations, this isn't about loyalty to any one country. This is simply a matter of life and death. The most painful thing. If Hyundai truly shifts its focus to Asia, what America loses is not just a few factories, but trust. The belief that the US is a safe haven for global industry. Once that trust is shaken, other major players, from Toyota and BMW to even young companies in the EV industry, will view the US with caution. And then the domino effect wouldn't stop at Georgia or Alabama. It could sweep across the entire map of American industry. Consider the everyday consequences our grandchildren, instead of working in modern factories right in their hometowns, might have to find jobs in menial services, while cars with familiar brand names are produced in a country halfway around the world. ChatGPT.
I'm so sorry I voted for Trump. I didn't know he was going to take away Social Security from 150-year-olds. He was going to defund trans operas in Colombia. If I had known, I would not have voted for him. Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. I hope wherever you are having a great time. Now we saw American electoral system in the 2024 presidential elections, and it revealed a lot of things. We have not gone to an issue-based electoral process because still people voted based on their racial backgrounds. Black people, some of them voted for black president, that is Kamala Harris, because they believed they also need to belong in that space. But then whites had something to protect. They didn't want a black person rising to that office, and also a woman. And this has come to haunt them because many of them right now are regretting. They're saying, why did we make this mistake? We knew all along that Trump was not the right person. He's right now becoming a dictator. He's now right now denying us social security pays that we should get. He's right now limiting our health care. But then, when the time for voting was there, everybody was saying a vote for Trump is necessary because it is a vote for America. What is happening currently is revealing that as electorates and as voters, we need to know that there are certain times when we must vote with our conscience right. It's not always about whether we can identify with the person who is in the top office, because sometimes these people implement policies that are cutting across. And that is why we've also seen white farmers crying and saying, we don't have immigrants who can come to work for us. How is Trump hitting us? Yet we're the people who voted for him. I want you to listen to some of the claims that white people are giving out here. White farmers have cried. Almost everyone in the American economy is crying and saying Trump's policies are injuring them in the worst way possible. Let's watch this, then come back and share our thoughts at the end.
It's about $250,000 to $300,000 worth of revenue. Just
Left to right.
yeah, just one thing, but it's also lost revenue for the workers that would have been able to pick them had they been here.
Oregon farmer Ian Chandler says about half his usual crew didn't show up this season, leaving him scrambling to backfill dozens of positions. You're calling them, I assume, individually.
Yes.
And saying,
Yes.
What's going on?
Yes, and
So what are they telling?
well, in the beginning of the season, it coincided unfortunately with a lot of really strong immigration enforcement down in Southern California, where our workforce comes from. And that kind of had a chilling effect on people wanting to move.
Well, Ian says his workers are hired with what seemed to be a valid ID and work papers. Fear of ICE raids kept many of them from traveling north this year.
So we're shutting down our market farm. We've officially decided to close the doors to our farm store and market farm. We just notified all of our customers yesterday. That may come as a shock to you. Some of you may be like, well, why are you doing that? There's many reasons. Ultimately, it comes down to we don't feel like the time input for the return is worth it. There's only so much time in a day. I've got several other businesses that just demand my time. I'm a real estate agent, I'm a health insurance agent, and then obviously we run the Tanner Farmstead social media accounts, educating you on how to grow food, and I really want to scale that
and scale these other businesses. And I really want to grow putting out more content. And to be honest, I've wrestled with this for the past couple of years. I want my content to be about homesteading and food preservation and all these other fun things that I want to do that I haven't been able to do because I've got to put so much time into, the turn and churn market farming crops, like lettuce. And so it's just not been in line with my vision. If you got any questions or want to hear more about that decision, you can send me a direct message. I also have a YouTube video out that you can watch, me talking further about the profitability of small-scale farming.
Anytime a MAGA man or a man who voted for Trump starts a conversation with, well, on the podcast, I'm going to stop you right there. I know what podcast you're talking about. I don't care what that person has to say. You know why? Because they're all grifters. Anyone who gets their political opinions from Rogan, those Nelk boys or whatever they're called, Theo Vaughn or whatever his name is not worthy of listening to, honestly. Those podcasters' main goal is to make money. And how they make money is to spew random conspiracy theories based on nothing. So if you listen to them and then voted for Trump because of what they said, that's on you, boo-boo. Like, imagine getting all of your information from some random bros who probably peaked in high school and got lucky enough to fail up. Sad, dude.
This is
I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here. This is Trump America. This is at the beginning stages of it. His actions have really shown who he really is. He lives in a delusional land that think that he's going to be this controlling bully. You're going to do as I say, or we're going to slap terrorists on you. But yet, Hyundai is about to spend $5 billion. So much for the high IQ people. That $5 billion could have produced so many jobs in that part of the region of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, probably into Louisiana, Texas, who knows? Probably up into Tennessee. This is on Trump. This is on Trump's watch. And the farmers are hurting. Guess what some of the farmers have gotten who buy majority of their produce and stuff? China. He put tariffs on that. But we going, you see that then his administration lied. I had to show about the two gentlemen talking about, we're producing jobs. That's been debunked. Then it shows you the tech industry is hurting. The manufacturing industry and the farming, just the three so far, is hurting. Then they mentioned retail. There's places like Las Vegas, Orlando, other towns in other cities in Florida, in Nevada, California, upstate, probably New York, and different places. They usually get tourism, but Trump caused this. His ego and his arrogance have caused this. He may have got one thing about getting rid of the criminals. That's one thing. I agree with that. Making sure that people who legally drive a truck, that I agree with that. But this stuff right here, he screwed up. He screwed up. Big time. Big time. Big time. I wish it had to be either Kamala or Trump. I wish it had been somebody else who would have ran for president, to be honest with you. Somebody who has some sense enough to be well balanced in assessment. Because this is ridiculous. I mean, but hey, the hotel industry, that what the guys are talking about, same thing. Global Discovery tells on his channel that they're emptying out. There are some people that only want to come to the United States because this all-American, Christian, white, male dominant mentality that has taken their ego to a whole different level. This is on the verge of people that agree with them, like Charlie Kirk and other people, that have that mindset. And now, when you have an administration have that mindset, look what it's costing us. With neighbors up the north, Canada don't kind of distance themselves from it. They might go to Canada, the Honda plant. That might provide jobs up there. I bet you Canada's going to put in a bid for that. Because Canada needs some jobs up there. They need some industry. Mexico, can put a bid for that. They'll probably be glad to work with the Mexican government down there. And they'll have to put it on. And I'll bet you some of these leaders like that. Because I know that's a lot of jobs. And not a lot of the Mexican citizens, like Canadian citizens, that's why they came to the United States to come into these plants. But the Project 2025 mentality thinking, the heritage, this is what they voted for. This is what they voted. And look at what the curse of America, what it does. It made it something. You might have sent a message to get to the people who, of course, broke the law, but you penalize the people who come through the right way, and especially to have representatives it bring you to technology and an insight on how to interpret, on how to work the machines, translation to the material. That's probably translation from South Korean to English. Trump didn't see that, but we got to be first. We got to be first. It's the same mentality with other groups of people. But he did this on an international style. This is what happens this is why the very thing, bringing back certain things of the past, we're American. We got to have everything. Well, first of all, in order to get parts back here to America, you have to, it has to be jobs produced. And the companies that rely on overseas stuff can bring stuff here in America. You got to do international trade. That's what every other country probably understand this. You work out your differences and stuff like that. But this stubborn mentality, we're going to take over this anarchy dictator when it comes to business. He's terrible at it. Whoever is agreeing with it, and he just started executive order, and he's screwed. Now he's screwed, and not only they screwed people, now he's screwing people that's in debt. He put people in bondage, as in Medicaid, Medicare. Now they hurting because now he's messing with that. He's messing with everything, and I can understand why. How is America going to be great when you tearing it down? And people get just seeing this stuff. The gas prices have gone up, the food has gone up, the cars have gone up, the cost of living, as far as people are making capital on mortgages companies and rental companies, spend outrageous amount of money. People can't afford to survive. They cut back medical services because he got certain Medicaid and Medicare programs, and he's hurting poor people. See, even though he's trying to come at black and immigrants, but it's more poor people in the states like West Virginia, these other Appalachian towns, just as well as the inner city, there are people that's there need medication. There's people there's no industry in some of these states because the coal mining industry towards down in that part of the region is falling because of regulations. And they probably get their clients from overseas too, so that hurts the coal industry. Probably hurt the solar industry. But this is when you have people like Trump that don't even analyze and think about this altogether. As far as business. This is terrible. This is really terrible. And now, what future do we have? And then it's like, he's pushing people to leave the United States. Some people are able to afford to live outside the country because, and live a better quality of life. But proud to be American. It used to be a time, but dang, it's not that people aren't proud to be American, but you got your own president that's trying to bring back that red, white, and blue. He wants to be worshipped and idolized so much that it has cost him his personality, his arrogance, the way he do business. Look at the way how he deal with his business, with his casinos, his hotel, and other stuff. He has failed. His school that he had, it failed. Now he's doing it on a grander scale. He don't know how to talk to people. Him and J.D. Vance. He made the people up in New Zealand mad because we're going to take over and put our base up here, and you be a part of us. And the New Zealand said no, we didn't agree to that. We're part of Europe. So now he's making enemies. He made him. What other mistake that he made? When the people that he said that was over in South Africa, that was getting lie about it means there had to be white representatives and black representatives that had to come over from South Africa. He was wrong about that. He wouldn't listen to what they got to say. Oh, and then what the very people, and even there were white people from South Africa got online and say that these people these not the white people you think they are. He wouldn't listen to it. Guess what happened? One of them come over here and unalive his wife, trying to doing white on white crime, as they say. From a South African, a white South African. We blame the black South Africans. You don't get falling out with China, trying to bully Russia. This man is delusional, man, and it's gonna cost us worse. America is not going to be the same next couple of years, and it's going to be because of his mindset. He's taking us back. We're going backwards. We're not moving forwards. We got somebody that come along, get along. I understand certain policies, as far as, like I said, as far as immigration, but you just went rambo on everybody. And it's like even people that's trying to do business, you're trying to be a dictator to. Now that he offended the whole, now people will have to leave here. Some people have to leave their state. That, like the guy said, that's true. Nice going, Trump. You really sure know what you're doing, you and your administration. Thanks a lot. I know there's a lot of people cutting services on a stereotype that it was these people and immigrants. It's those blacks and other. Meanwhile, it's 500,000 white people need the benefits just as well, because it false stereotyping in people. Think about it. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time, take care. See you on like and subscribe. Take care and see you on the next video.